In a quiet town where HOA rules were stricter than the laws of nature, one man just wanted to rest after saving lives all day. But when a power-hungry HOA president decided that control mattered more than compassion, he made a fatal mistake. He crossed paths with the wrong paramedic. What started as a petty parking dispute quickly spiraled into a battle for justice, community, and the soul of the neighborhood itself. This isn't just a story about rules and regulations. It's about how standing up, even when you're tired, even when you're outnumbered, can ignite a change bigger than you ever imagined. Sometimes it only takes one act of courage to turn a community's silence into a roar. Logan Mitchell tightened his grip on the steering wheel as he pulled into the Pine Hill Residence's parking lot, his muscles aching from 12 brutal hours on shift. His assigned space, labeled neatly with a reflective white number, was a welcome sight. All he needed was 10 minutes to breathe, grab a sandwich from across the street, and maybe, just maybe, forget the weight of the world for a moment. He locked his SUV radio, clipped to his belt, and stretched his tired legs. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and barbecue smoke. Pine Hill looked peaceful on the surface. Manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, trimmed hedges. But Logan knew the neighborhood was like a porcelain doll, beautiful on the outside, hollow and fragile within. As he crossed the lot toward the sidewalk, his radio crackled static. Then a voice, Jason, his longtime partner, sharp and urgent. "Logan, I need backup, unresponsive male. Chest pain turned into full arrest. I'm starting compressions now." Logan spun on his heel, adrenaline surging. Every second counted. He sprinted back to his car only to stop dead in his tracks. A police cruiser sat idling next to his SUV. A tow truck's hook was already secured beneath his bumper. And standing proudly, arms crossed and smirk glued to his face, was Clifford Huxley, the HOA president who treated Pine Hill like his personal fiefdom. Logan's heart hammered, not from exhaustion this time, but from raw disbelief. "What the hell are you doing?" Logan shouted, breaking into a run. The tow truck driver barely looked up. The cop shifted uncomfortably. But Clifford, oh, Clifford drank in the moment. "Mr. Mitchell," he said with syrupy disdain, "your vehicle is in violation of newly posted HOA parking standards." Logan pointed furiously at his numbered spot. "That space is assigned to me. It's in my lease agreement." Clifford waved a hand dismissively. "New board policy. Your spot is now guest overflow. Didn't you read the newsletter?" Newsletter? Logan hadn't received anything, probably because Clifford had handpicked who got informed. Before Logan could argue further, his radio blared again. Jason's voice, raw, panicked. "BP's crashing. I need you here now." Logan turned back to the cop, desperation clawing at him. "Officer, please. I'm a paramedic on duty. If you delay me, someone could die." The officer looked torn, but Clifford stepped forward, smirking wider. "If we start making exceptions," Clifford said smugly, "where does it end? Rules are rules." Logan clenched his fist so tightly he thought his bones would crack. "You're really going to argue parking policy while a man is dying?" The tow truck driver hesitated, chains in hand. Boss," he muttered, glancing nervously at Logan. "Maybe we should—" Clifford cut him off sharply. "Proceed." For a terrifying moment, Logan thought he might have to physically fight his way to his own vehicle. But then, blessedly, the cop sighed heavily. "Let him go," he said to the driver. "Now." Without waiting another heartbeat, Logan tore into his SUV, slammed it into gear, and sped out of the lot, leaving Clifford's enraged shouting to disappear in the dust behind him. As Logan weaved through traffic, siren off but horn blaring, a grim thought solidified in his mind. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Logan leaned against the vending machine, replaying everything that had happened. The emergency call. The delay. The near death of a man who just wanted to live another day. All because of one arrogant HOA president and his lust for power. Jason walked up beside him, handing him a lukewarm coffee. "You good?" Jason asked. Logan stared at the cup for a moment, then gave a humorless chuckle. Not even close. For a few hours, Logan tried to shake it off, tried to convince himself that Clifford Huxley wasn't worth the fight. But every time he thought about that man lying on the sidewalk, his wife sobbing beside him, the rage boiled back up. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was about how unchecked power could almost cost lives. By the time Logan pulled into his apartment that night, his exhaustion was buried beneath adrenaline and something sharper, determination. He fired up his laptop. If Clifford wanted to play power games, he was about to lose. Spectacularly. Within an hour, Logan had compiled a detailed timeline. Photos of his assigned parking space. HOA documentation showing no prior notices of changes. Video from his dashcam showing the tow truck and Clifford's smug face. Voice recordings from his police body cam app catching Clifford admitting to newly reclassified parking policies. But it wasn't enough. Clifford could wave it away as enforcing standards. Logan needed to hit harder, deeper. Digging into public records, he found something interesting. Clifford's cousin owned the towing company that serviced Pine Hill. Multiple complaints had been filed against the HOA board over the past 2 years, mysteriously buried or ignored. Financial audits showed inconsistencies in HOA spending, including inflated towing costs, billed directly to homeowners. Logan's fingers flew over the keyboard. He compiled everything into a single damning document and called an old high school friend, Nina Alvarez, now a reporter for the Pine Hill Tribune. When he explained, there was a brief silence on the other end of the line. Then Nina's voice came through sharp and excited. "Logan, this is huge. You ready to go public?" He didn't hesitate. "Absolutely." The next morning, the headline hit the web. Paramedic nearly blocked from saving life due to HOA tyranny. Financial scandal uncovered. The story exploded like gasoline on dry brush. Neighbors who had once kept their heads down now flooded the HOA's inbox with furious emails. People dug out their own horror stories. Retirees fined hundreds for having incorrect mailbox colors. Single moms threatened with liens over imaginary landscaping violations. Veterans shamed publicly for flying too large. American flags Logan had lit the match, and now Pine Hill was on fire with anger, with momentum, with justice. Long overdue. By week's end, a petition circulated demanding Clifford's immediate resignation. Residents scheduled a special HOA meeting. Lawyers began sniffing around Clifford Huxley. Once untouchable was now cornered, exposed and panicking. Stunned. Logan stood on his balcony that night, watching porch lights flicker on across the neighborhood. For the first time in a long time, Pine Hill wasn't a place of whispered fears. It was a community waking up, roaring back to life. And Logan Mitchell, exhausted, stubborn, fueled by nothing but raw justice, was ready to finish what he had started. The evening of the special HOA meeting felt electric. The community center, normally half empty and echoing, was packed wall to wall. Neighbors who once nodded stiffly at each other now whispered urgently, united by a common goal: removing. Clifford Huxley, Logan sat near the front, Jason by his side, both wearing the same dark polo shirts they wore on duty, as if to silently remind everyone why they were there in the first place. The murmur of voices died as Clifford entered the room. He looked smaller than usual despite his expensive suit and forced grin. His usual arrogance had cracked into something tight and brittle. He strode to the microphone, clearing his throat. "Residents of Pine Hill." He began, his voice oozing fake warmth. "There has been a great misunderstanding fueled by misinformation." A voice cut him off from the crowd. "What about the towing scam, Clifford? And the misused HOA funds?" Another shouted. "You almost got a man killed," a third voice roared, and a wave of angry agreement followed. Clifford's face flushed bright red. He held up his hands for calm, but it was no use. Nina Alvarez stood up at the back of the room, holding up her phone. "I have copies of the financial audits, the towing contracts, and residents' formal complaints." Everything is recorded and archived for public review, Clifford sputtered. You people don't understand how hard it is to maintain order. Logan rose slowly from his seat. We understand plenty, he said calmly, his voice carrying across the room. You made this place about fear, not community. You cared more about petty power than people's lives. He didn't shout. He didn't have to. The silence in the room said it all. The newly appointed interim HOA chair, a retired judge named Mrs. Ellery, took the microphone. We are now moving to an immediate no-confidence vote, she said crisply. All those in favor of removing Clifford Huxley as HOA president effective, immediately please stand. Chairs scraped the floor. People rose like a wave. Neighbors, veterans, young couples, elderly, retirees. Nearly the entire room stood. Clifford staggered back as if struck. He opened his mouth, perhaps to argue, perhaps to beg, but no sound came out. The vote was unanimous. Effective that night, Clifford Huxley was stripped of all authority. An investigation into financial misconduct was launched. The towing contract canceled. As Logan walked out into the cool evening air, he found himself surrounded by neighbors, offering handshakes, claps on the back, nods of respect. But it wasn't the congratulations that stayed with him. It was what he found tucked under his windshield wiper later that night. A simple envelope, no name, no return address. Inside was a letter written in shaky handwriting. Dear Mr. Mitchell, because of you, my husband lived to walk our daughter down the aisle this month. Because of you, we have another sunrise together. You didn't just save him. You saved all of us who were too afraid to speak until now. Thank you. Logan folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his pocket. He didn't need fame. He didn't need thanks. He had already gotten the one thing that mattered most, a community restored, and a reminder that one voice, when brave enough, could change everything. The porch lights of Pine Hill flickered softly into the night, not out of fear, but as beacons of a new beginning. Logan smiled quietly, started his SUV and drove off into the calm, knowing he had finally brought real rescue home.